A luxurious mansion bathed in the glow of evening lights stood on the hill like a majestic castle from another era. The grand wrought iron gates had long closed behind the last guest, and silence spread through the vast halls adorned with golden chandeliers and marble columns. Inside, everything appeared perfect. The floors gleamed, the portraits of old masters gazed down from high walls, and the mahogany furniture looked more like museum pieces than things to be used. Yet behind all that beauty lurked a shadow of loneliness. The house was far too large for one man. Rafid, a millionaire long accustomed to power and wealth, felt unusually uneasy that evening. He had known many women, many fleeting connections, but none had touched his heart the way Hina had. So modest, so quiet, and yet in her eyes there was something he had never seen before, light and purity. He had invited her to his chambers not as a master, but as a man wanting to open his soul. The evening promised to be special. For the first time he intended to speak to her sincerely. Hina entered the room hesitantly. Her steps were light, almost silent, like a bird's feet touching the ground. She wore a simple yet elegant dress of soft blue that emphasized her fragility. Her long hair fell over her shoulders, and in the lamplight her face looked porcelain. Rafid smiled, but his smile held more nervousness than joy. He gestured to the chair beside him, and Hina sat, lowering her gaze to the floor. "Tonight," he began softly, "I want you to feel that this place is your home. I want you to know that here, you have nothing to fear." She nodded but didn't lift her head. Her heart was beating fast, like a bird trapped in a cage. She sensed something was about to happen. Rafid slowly stepped closer. His footsteps echoed in the quiet room. He leaned down and took her hand. It was cold as ice. "Hina," his voice trembled, "you are more than just my bride. You are the light of my life. I want to share everything with you." At that moment her eyes met his. For a second, he saw in them the reflection of the moon outside the window, and a fleeting shadow of fear. She began, but her voice broke. "I don't know if I can." Rafid smiled gently, thinking it was only shyness. He brushed her hair with his hand, and suddenly she recoiled sharply. Panic flared in her eyes, and before he could speak, the room shook with her scream. It was not just a scream, it sliced through the night, crashed against the walls, and echoed through the corridors. It was a cry of pain, fear, and at the same time liberation. Downstairs the servants froze. Someone dropped a tray, dishes clattered, but no one dared enter. Rafid stood motionless. He had never heard anything like it. His breath caught. Hina clutched her chest, trembling all over, and through tears, almost in a whisper, yet clear enough for him to understand, she said, "I have never let anyone come so close. I'm still pure." Her words dissolved into sobs. It was as if she feared that this confession would condemn her, that her truth would destroy everything. But the opposite happened. Something tightened in Rafid's chest. His heart ached, his eyes filled with tears. All his millions, all the deals, the houses, the yachts, the cars, in that moment they all lost their meaning. Before him sat a woman who had preserved herself despite every trial life had thrown at her, and she had entrusted him with that truth, torn from her soul through a scream. Slowly Rafid sank to his knees before her. "Hina," he whispered, "I am grateful that you trusted me. You have nothing to fear. I'm not here to take anything from you. I'm here to protect you." She looked at him through tears, unable to believe her ears. No man had ever spoken to her like that before. Someone passed by the door again. Footsteps echoed softly, but no witness dared to look inside. Something greater than a conversation between a man and a woman was unfolding in that room. It was a meeting of souls, a collision between the world of power and the world of purity. Time seemed to stop. The moon moved slowly outside the window, and in Hina's heart for the first time, a feeling began to bloom. Maybe this man was not an enemy but a protector. She was still trembling, but her scream was no longer one of fear. It had become a symbol, a boundary she had finally dared to draw. And for Rafid, that scream was a revelation. For the first time he heard a voice that awakened the real man inside him. Not the rich, powerful figure the world saw, but a human being. He understood then that tonight he had not gained a woman. He had found a treasure no amount of money could ever buy. The silence after Hina's scream lingered in the mansion for a long time. It seemed as though the very walls still held the echoes of her voice. For a brief moment, everything stood still. Then the corridors filled with noise, doors opening, servants exchanging glances, some whispering nervously, others pretending nothing had happened. People exchanged glances, some trying to hide a smile, others frowning. That scream had reminded everyone that true wealth isn't houses or cars, nor money or power. True wealth is trust and honor. Rafid took a step forward. His eyes shone, and each word he spoke struck like the blow of a hammer. Hina is pure, he said firmly. She has guarded herself all her life. And today she trusted me enough to let me hear her truth. A murmur rippled through the hall. Some raised their eyebrows in surprise, others flushed, feeling ashamed of their own thoughts. And you know what? Rafid continued, his voice steady. I'm proud of it. I'm proud to stand beside a woman like her. And if anyone dares to tarnish her name or question her dignity, they will become my enemy. The servants and guests fell silent. The atmosphere shifted. Now in people's eyes there was respect. They realized the millionaire wasn't going to hide the truth. On the contrary, he was ready to defend it openly, even if it sparked gossip. Hina couldn't hold back her tears. She felt the ground slip from beneath her feet. Everything she had feared, judgment, mockery, humiliation, had turned into protection and recognition. She looked at him, her heart trembling. "Why did you do it?" she whispered when the hall fell into silence. "Because truth should never be hidden," he replied softly. "And your honor is worth more than all my millions." The hall erupted in applause. It wasn't the polite, empty clapping of a party, it was sincere, emotional, alive. People stood and applauded not only him, but her, the woman who had shown that even in the modern world purity and honor still have value. Hina lowered her head, but now it was not from shame, it was from relief. Rafid clasped her hand tightly and whispered so that only she could hear. "You will never be alone again." Those words became a vow, stronger than any promise. But it didn't end there. After the applause died down, one of Rafid's oldest friends, a man with gray hair and wise eyes, approached him. "You've done what no other rich man would have dared," he said. "You've shown that you're not afraid of the truth. You've made it stronger." Those words strengthened Hina's heart even more. When the hall gradually emptied and only the two of them remained, Rafid sat beside her and quietly added, "Today a new chapter begins. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know this. I'll be here to protect what you've entrusted to me." Hina smiled through her tears, and for the first time in a long while, peace settled in her heart. Yet despite Rafid's public defense, the rumors didn't disappear. In the city people whispered. "The millionaire fell for a simple girl," they said. "She probably pretended to be innocent just to win his fortune." Hina felt those looks every time she left the mansion. In the shops, women whispered behind her back. Men stared with curiosity and mockery. One day, returning home from the library, she overheard two women talking. "Did you hear?" one said. "They say she screamed on purpose to get his pity." Purity? In this day and age? It's all an act for the millions. Those words cut into her like a knife. That evening, she locked herself in her room and cried. When Rafid entered, he saw the pain in her eyes. "You've been listening to them again?" he asked gently. "I can't bear it," she whispered. "Let the world think badly of me, I just can't live like this." He sat beside her, wrapped her in his arms and said firmly, "The world will always look for dirt in what is pure. But know this," he said softly, "I believe you. And that means more than anything they can say." That evening she realized, the fight was only beginning. The grand hall of the mansion glowed with the golden light of crystal chandeliers. The air was filled with the scent of fine wine and rare cigars, mingled with tension. This evening was important for Rafid. He had gathered influential people, business partners, politicians, and bankers. But despite the luxury and wealth surrounding them, everyone was waiting not for a business speech, but for the appearance of one young woman. Hina's name had long become a subject of gossip. Some called her a deceiver, a girl who had cunningly played the part of an innocent to win a millionaire's heart. Others pitied her quietly, while some waited eagerly for the truth to come out and expose her. That's why the atmosphere in the hall was not mere curiosity, but hungry anticipation. When the doors opened and Hina entered, the murmurs ceased. She wore a white dress, simple yet elegant, highlighting her purity and fragility. Her hair fell in soft waves upon her shoulders. Her eyes were lowered, but her steps were steady. She walked beside Rafat, and in every step, there was a quiet strength, the courage to overcome her fear. A wave of whispers swept through the hall like a breeze. There she is. That one. The innocent girl? What naivety in her eyes. What an act. Rafat noticed her fingers tighten around his hand. He gave a slight, reassuring squeeze in return, a silent promise that she wasn't alone. Then one of the guests, a wealthy businessman with a cruel temper and an envious gaze, spoke loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Well, Mr. Rafat," he said mockingly, "here is your treasure. Or is it just another toy, one you'll tire of soon enough?" Muted laughter rippled through the room. Someone even snickered outright. Hina turned pale. Her breath quickened. Her legs felt weak and the only thing she wanted was to run away. But Rafat took a step forward. His voice was low and cold. "Watch your words," he said. "The woman standing before you is no toy. She is my fiancée." Silence fell again, heavier this time. All eyes turned to Hina, waiting for her reaction. No one believed she would dare to speak. She stood there, her heart pounding wildly. In her mind, a voice whispered, "Stay quiet. Let him speak for you. That's safer." But another voice, soft yet resolute, rose within her. "If you stay silent now, they'll believe they're right. They'll trample your honor and no one will stop them." She lifted her eyes. Dozens of stares met hers, wary, mocking, indifferent. Then, taking a trembling breath, she stepped forward, slipping her hand from Rafat's. Her voice shook, but her words rang clear. "I never asked for this wealth. I never asked for attention. I kept myself not for him and not for his millions." The hall erupted with murmurs, some gasps, some scoffs, but Hina went on even as her hands trembled. "I did it for myself," she said, her voice gaining strength. "For the sake of having something pure in a world full of filth and lies, something that belongs only to me." Her voice grew firmer. "If that's something you find laughable, then you've never known what true strength is." Her words struck like a blow. The laughter faded. Those who had been smirking moments before looked away. Women exchanged uneasy glances, men frowned. The atmosphere shifted completely. Rafat looked at her as if seeing her for the first time. His heart swelled with pride. He had always known Hina was strong, but he hadn't expected her strength to shine so boldly, so fearlessly, right there before society's eyes. The businessman who had tried to humiliate her flushed crimson. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. His mocking grin twisted into an awkward smile, and he lowered his eyes into his glass of wine. Silence filled the hall. No one dared to gossip any longer. For the first time there was no mockery, no doubt in their eyes, only respect. A trembling ran through Hina's body, a mixture of fear and astonishment. She thought she might faint under the weight of so many eyes fixed on her. But then Rafat stepped forward and stood beside her. He didn't speak, he simply placed his hand gently on her shoulder. That simple gesture said more than any speech could. It was affirmation. He was there. He supported her. But, most importantly, he had given her the chance to defend herself. Time seemed to stop in the hall. Everyone understood they had just witnessed something greater than a scandal, greater than a dramatic moment. They had witnessed the birth of strength. The girl they once thought weak and naive had shown that her dignity was stronger than their cynicism. After dinner, many approached them with a newfound respect. Some shook Rafat's hand, others nodded to Hina with quiet admiration. But she knew, this wasn't the end. Beyond the walls of the mansion the world would still talk. The world would still whisper and judge. Yet something inside her had changed. Where once she feared every look, every word, now she felt the taste of freedom. She understood that her power lay in truth. Late that night, when the hall had emptied, she sat on the balcony gazing at the stars. Rafid came and sat beside her. For a while they said nothing. Then he spoke softly. "You know, today you did something I couldn't have done. You stood up and spoke the truth when everyone in that room wanted to shame you." She smiled faintly through exhaustion. "I was afraid," she admitted, "but I was even more afraid that if I stayed silent, I'd lose myself." He took her hand and looked into her eyes. "You're not just my fiancée," he said quietly. "You're my mirror. You show me what I've never had. And I swear, no one will ever dare to insult you again." She closed her eyes, and for the first time in a long while she felt not only peace, but pride. Her scream that night had been the beginning. But this evening, this was her victory.